your working life is that you have short holidays. Now, I know many of the students are probably really bored and can't wait to go back to school. Isn't that correct? You're just waiting, ready to go back and continue the education journey. Well, I happened to be in Paris, France, having a conversation over lunch with some French folk from Parisians, and we had to talk about vacations. And I said, you know, most people in Canada, generally, when they start to work, they get how many weeks? 2. Do you know how many weeks I was told they get in France? 6. Yes, 6 weeks. Yes, 6 weeks, Jim. And I went, no wonder more than half of Paris is not in Paris during the month of August. They're always somewhere else on vacation. And a lot of that has to do with the great work of unions and negotiations to get rights for workers which weren't present in the past. In the past, generally, you would only have vacation on religious days. And very often, if you were a slave, as was at least 1/3 to a half of the Roman Empire in Jesus' time, you had no days off. It was work until you were born, until you dropped dead. That's it. But you see, in the Jewish tradition, they had the concept of the Sabbath. One of the 10 Commandments is set aside one day of the week as the Sabbath and keep it holy. I call it the Sabbath principle. And it was designed to help you be free. And what a word for our time, when the pursuit of wealth means that sometimes people become workaholics. Now, this was a particular disease of men until recently, and I think more women are actually joining the group, where you work so hard, you spend your entire life working, and then you retire. Now, there's a term for it when I was in Grenada, when they were commenting that Grenadians who work particularly in London transport would spend their whole life working and they would build this great home in Grenada. They would spend all their life in the underground or on buses, whatever they're doing in London transport in England, retire back to Grenada, and they said within 2 years, guess what? They died. So you spend your whole life building towards something and boom, it's suddenly gone. So one of the principles the Jews were given and Christians have inherited as part of our tradition is this idea of setting aside time for recreation and for worship. And in the biblical sense, this was designed not just for you, it was actually designed for the land, it was designed for your animals, it was designed for your family, for all of your social relationships. Now this has become more complex in our time because of secularism and flexible working hours. Many people work shifts, and particularly those who are going to nursing, you'll find that you're working on Sundays. And just to let you know, I work on Sundays too. As you know, my Sabbath day is Monday. I try to set that aside. So the principle of having a flexible Sabbath, but setting aside time for recreation and rest and worship, so that you become a whole person and not just fixated on the accumulation of things, which, as some of the folk who retired in Grenada discovered, could be very fleeting to enjoy. You're here today and gone tomorrow. Now, when Jesus confronts this in a small synagogue in a town, what you need to know about Jesus' day briefly was the Sadducees were a religious party that controlled the temple worship in Jerusalem. That's where their base of strength was. But in many of the small towns and villages, the Pharisaic party, which believed in the resurrection, the Sadducees did not. But the Pharisees controlled the worship and were very influential in the small towns. But one of the characteristics of the Pharisees was they held not just the first 5 books of Moses or the Torah as the law which you should follow. They adopted 507 additional laws in addition to that. And they covered a lot about what you could or couldn't do on the Sabbath. So, for example, how far could you walk on the Sabbath? What was considered work on the Sabbath? What couldn't you do? And although the intent was to give people practical guidance on being faithful to the commandment of keeping the Sabbath day holy, for many people it became a religion of what you can't do instead of a religion of be free. And when Jesus has this discussion in the synagogue in the town where he is, he confronts the you can't do things. Have you ever met negative people? You'll know when you meet them because you feel, you're going to run, if you're listening to run in the workplace, you're going to run into them. They're around for a whole variety of reasons. And so they often see what you can't do. Everything is negative, everything is, there's a problem, and it's incredibly draining, as opposed to what I would call positive people who see life and opportunity. And Jesus is trying to remind the people in the synagogue of his day that the Sabbath was created for opportunity and positiveness, to bring life, to be free. And it shows up in this way. If you were invited to the synagogue in that particular day, you go there for the Sabbath day for teaching. The rabbi was employed by the president of the synagogue. By the way, Pam, the president of the synagogue would be the warden, the deputy warden, or the people's warden in their day. And they essentially administered the whole synagogue. The synagogue played a role for teaching and for gathering for worship, but it was also a place of social outreach. Food to the poor was handed out from the synagogue. There was even usually a guest house associated with the synagogue where visiting Jews could come and stay and receive kosher food and hospitality. So the president of the synagogue, like the wardens of St. Paul's, were responsible for administering the whole thing. And that required not just the president of the synagogue, but a board of elders, similar to our executive board here at St. Paul's, who helped everything to happen and kept the building in good shape. Now, the president of the synagogue obviously invited Jesus as a famous rabbi, who they were curious about because they heard him healing. Healing and doing miracles, and they were wondering, who is this man? And so they invited him to preach, and he goes into the synagogue and sits. You don't preach standing, you actually sit on a chair when you preach and teach. And as he's preaching and teaching in the synagogue, he looks out and he sees a woman who's bent over like this. She's been looking at the ground for 18 years, and I've often wondered, was it arthritis? Anyone who's got arthritis of the back, you know exactly what I'm talking about, how painful it is, how debilitating. Some scholars have said that the spine was fused for her, perhaps in some form of scoliosis or something, and she was actually in this position. And it's fascinating because we don't know her name, but we know it was 18 years she was suffering like this. And Jesus looks out and sees this woman bent over, and he decides to make a point about the purpose and meaning of the Sabbath. The Sabbath is meant to set you free. And Luke includes this story as a reminder to us that the ministry and knowing Jesus is about setting you free. It's not about tying your hands. And so Jesus prays for her, and she's healed. Now, the president of the synagogue knows that this is interpreted by the Pharisaic tradition as work, and therefore not to be done. And he's embarrassed, but he can't say something, but he's thinking it. And it's probably the face which gives it away. Have you ever said to somebody and you get the look? He was not a happy camper. Other people are shocked, rejoicing, but he's... And so Jesus takes the moment to teach him about what the purpose of the Sabbath is. God gave you this to bring life, to bring healing, to set you free. And for those of you who are workaholics, take a Sabbath, be free. Because one of these days you're going to go, and you'll have missed life. You'll have accomplished a great deal, you've worked very hard, and I'm not saying you shouldn't work hard. But set aside the Sabbath and have balance in your life. Don't be like some Japanese workers who actually had a interpreter in Japan. They're a journeyman who worked for a company in Thailand who worked so hard that they just dropped dead in their work. That's not balance in life. And the scriptures call us to a balanced life with health and wholeness and an opportunity to worship God and to worship in a community. So Jesus gives a teaching and he pulls the guy aside and says, don't you know that the purpose of the synagogue, you get so upset if your animal
is thirsty on the Sabbath, you can take the rein off, the halter, and you can let it go to the trough of water. You can't leave it there, but it can go by itself. If your animal falls down a pit on the Sabbath, you can actually go and lift it out of the Sabbath. And Jesus says, good grief, you care about your animals, but the woman who's been suffering for 18 years, you give the healing, and you're complaining about it. You're grumbling. You can't see the work of God. And I think that's one reason Luke includes this passage in our gospel. He's saying to his listeners and to us, God wants you to be free from whatever is binding you, whatever is crippling you. Be free in your relationship with Jesus Christ. Now, I can say more about this text, but we have a certain amount of time in the service. You'll have to come back next week.